everybody, it's Terry Battisti with the Bass Fishing Archives, and we're sitting here at ICAST 2022 with Shaw Grigsby. And what we're going to talk about today is the evolution of sight fishing. Shaw was arguably one of the first to ever figure out sight fishing. And it used to be that people would say when bedding bass were bedding that you couldn't catch them. And Shaw was one of the guys that actually figured out how to catch bedding fish. And from there, it has just ballooned. But then the evolution has even gone further in the last 3 years or so. And so, Shaw.
Yeah, when I started, I was just a kid, and everybody would say you can't catch it. Just like you said, you can't catch a fish when he's on the bed. And, when you're a kid and you don't catch very many, and you're going to fish all day and may catch one or two, and you see one sitting there, well, just why not spend some time on it? And we learned that you could really pester them and catch one, and that's how we kind of figured it out. But I wasn't real good at it. I got fairly good at it, but I got paired with Guido Hibden, and Guido really showed me a bait, the tube bait, and then how to really catch them, and then we just went from there. So I was very successful with it, and that was really cool. So love every minute of the aspect of sight fishing. In fact, Doug Hannon took me and said, as much as you love sight fishing, you'd love fly fishing for tarpon. And I go, well, I never really thought about fly fishing for tarpon. He took me out there, showed me how to double haul, and the first day on the water, I look at a fish that's 7 feet long swimming at you. It's like, oh my gosh, and I was hooked on that. So when it comes to a visual aspect of seeing a fish, and it doesn't have to be spawning, it can be any clear water aspect of seeing a fish and fishing for that fish, I love it. I mean, I absolutely love it. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. And I don't care if it's trout fishing in clear water, but any of the clear water aspects. Now, we have electronics. We have the forward-facing sonar. And so now what that does is it means you don't necessarily have to have the clear water. You don't necessarily have to have them on bed. You can do it 12 months out of the year. All of a sudden you're scanning with this and there's a fish and you see him. My Lawrence, I'll see that glow, that dot, and I go, there's one right there. And now you've got to catch him. So now you've got to make the right bait, the right cast, get it on him, and then you watch that fish react. And I've had so many that you throw a jerk bait by them and they look at it like maybe, and then they turn off and you're like, oh golly, what did I do wrong? So now you can change color, change speed, change your retrieve, and you can figure it out so you can dial in. But those are fish that you've never seen because of the water, but now you see them on your electronics. You still have to get them to eat, but that's what the electronics allows you to do, is figure out the cadence that they want, the bait that they want, the whole 9 yards. Exactly.
Just like bed fishing. Right?
You could make you can make a cast on that bed and they don't care. And all of a sudden you maybe change a color, change a different bait, and all of a sudden they light up. And I remember having a guy in the boat with me one time, and we're fishing this bed, and back then we had partners, so they would fish the same bed with you and just rotate casts. And all of a sudden he picked up, I believe it was a firecracker. Remember the firecracker was like a clear with a red, white, and blue flake in it. And he threw that firecracker. I don't think it was a tube. I think it was a worm, but it could have been a tube. Anyway, he throws it in the bait, and that fish just went crazy and lit up on it. I went, oh my gosh, he's going to catch it, And I jump in my box and I'm digging while he's fishing. And fortunately, he wasn't as good at catching bedding fish as I was. And I finally got one on and caught the fish. But it was like you had to race, because you knew as soon as that fish lit up and those fins went crazy that was what he wanted.
Dorsal fin goes up.
Exactly. So, and all the pec fins get to wiggling, the dorsal fin, the tail. He's like, I'm getting that. So, but you can visually see that. And so sometimes it is. Sometimes it's color. Sometimes it's your bait. Sometimes you need a bigger bait, smaller bait, all kinds of things like that. But now with that forward-facing sonar, you got to go through the same process, but you're looking at him on the screen.
Right, exactly. So with bed fishing, there's also a specific spot on the bed that fish does not want that bait. So can you give some pointers on how do you determine where in the bed is that fish most guarded?
Well, when you're bed fishing, it's really watching that fish. Okay, so the forward-facing sonar is not playing a real deal in that. And if you are using forward-facing sonar fishing, like let's say you're in smallmouth water where you're in 12 to 15 and they're out there and you can spot them that way too.
Yeah.
But generally when you're doing that, if you get it close, they're eating it. So they don't really have to have it on the spot.
Smallmouth are completely different than largemouth.
Right,
they're idiots when they get on the bed.
I love every minute of it. It's like, so people, and people, there's people that don't like forward-facing sonar. They just think that, it's like this. I think probably the same people that didn't like the Alabama rig. That it makes it easy, and it doesn't. It opens up new horizons. It's another deal, another technique, and so. Do you catch big ones on it? Absolutely, you catch big ones on an Alabama rig because they fool for this whole school of minnows coming by. But did it change whether or not you're that angler that can find where that big fish is, that can present the bait and do everything right, get the right colors, the right sizes, everything put together? You still have to do all that,
Right.
And I'm the same way with the forward-facing sonar. You still have to figure that fish out. Yes, does it show you there's one there? Yes, but does it catch it for you? No, you still got to do it. You still got to do it. So
it's the same thing back when it went from flashers to straight line paper graphs, right? There was a ban the graph campaign that came out. You remember that, right? 75, 76.
I remember going from the flasher, and I had that Blue Water Pro Lowrance 40, and 40-foot flasher, man, and it was awesome. There you see them, you go, there's fish here.
Yeah.
But it's neat. So we made a little bit of gain in technology from the flasher to what we have now with forward sonar sights. I go by now with my structure scans, and I can literally go by a shell bar, and you can go, well, there's one, there's 7, 8 pretty good fish right here. Or go by a brush top and go, there's 3 of them in there. How good is that?
No, it's nuts.
It's wonderful.
It's insane.
See, that's the thing. This is why I love it. Is I love fishing, and the good, I love being outdoors, and I don't necessarily have to catch them. But every time I catch one, it makes that a little bit more exciting. And fishing, when you go outdoors, and really anything, it doesn't have to necessarily mean fishing, but fishing's been my sport to choose, but it creates memories that last a lifetime. So I guarantee you, if I ask you right now, and you remember the first bass you caught, you probably go,
absolutely.
Absolutely. I can guarantee if I ask you, you remember the first time you sunk a basket, probably not. Or you hit you made a hit or something. You don't remember that, Now, you may remember the first time you hit a home run. That's possible. That'd be like, for us, it'd be like first time we caught a 10-pounder, absolutely. But you remember your first bass.
Yeah.
When you're outdoors, it creates memories that last a lifetime, and special memories, not with family and kids and all that. So anything that enhances that gives you the opportunity to take somebody out and score, catch a fish, and do that, I'm all in favor of. Favor of. And I just think it's a great tool, and I'm thankful they came out with it. Now here's a backstory. This is true, 100% true. The guy that got me into tournament fishing, his name is Jerry Beavis. Okay, we were in Boy Scouts together. He was a patrol leader. I was in his patrol, but when he came over to in 8th grade, he came over to my high school and or my school, and I was the only one he knew. So 8th grade, we got to be best buddies. I wasn't best buddies when we were Boy Scouts. We just knew each other, friends, but became best buddies. And he was a bass fisherman, and he loved fishing, and he wanted to tournament fish, and he was a member of Bass Anglers Sports. He had to have the magazine and all this kind of. So we started doing that. Then he invited me to fish, which on your old show a long time ago, I told about my first fishing experience and all. But while we're fishing, we would go out to the Swanee River, and they had schools of black drum, and I'm talking big ones. See, these would range. A small one would be 30, big ones would be 65, maybe even to 70 pounds. Huge black drum in massive schools.
Wow.
And so we were trying to figure out, we'd catch one, and it took you so long to land one, 20, 25 minutes, and we'd never find another school. They'd be gone. And so we said, well, how can we change this? Well, we had our flashers, right? And so my buddy Jerry, he did woodwork in his shop, and he actually did it and sold it, and that's how he kind of made his side money. Like most of us would mow yards, he would do woodwork, and he sold it to a craft shop. So he goes back and he cuts a piece of wood and he builds a thing to mount on the bottom of our hand control. I think it was a trolling motor. I mean, we're talking
Electrol.
Yeah, old time, right? And so he put it on the bottom, and he took that transducer of our flasher and pointed it out front.
Yeah.
And at first it didn't work because it broke the surface. We learned that we had to cut it down just a little bit. So we angled it just a bit down, and all of a sudden we could chase those drums. And we take that hand control, and they'd light up with the school, so we could search for them out there. It'd light up. Now we didn't know because he was using the 30-foot deal. So you'd have to turn it off and then turn it on. Watch how many times it'd go around to know whether it was, 30 feet out, 60 feet out, 90 feet, whatever,
right,
before it light up. And then we'd move over and go catch them. And we got on them, and we would just we'd stay on them for 3 or 4 hours just catching drum and letting them go and just having a hoot. And that's the first, and that was in, I'm going to say right around 74. I would guarantee I don't know of anybody that did forward sonar before that.
Well, actually, Stembridge Products, Bill Stembridge, who owned Fliptail.
Yes, we fished the old Fliptail worm.
Well,
that was a big worm for
in
us.
75, Stembridge Products came out with what they called the Aquascan, and it was 360-degree flasher. So it was essentially like a 360 is today.
Yeah.
Except it would give you the readout in flasher type array, right? And it failed after a couple of years because the cost back in 75 was $1,595. Yeah,
that'd be like 20 grand now.
Exactly, absolutely. Yeah, it's insane. But the technology was out there. It was too expensive to sell.
That's cool. I appreciate that. I've always thought that he was my buddy Jerry that did that, thought about that. I said, man, that's a smart thing. We should have run with that. And,
absolutely.
Just and it's just a mount, and then you can scan under stuff and still flash it from there. But
yeah,
awesome,
sweet.
Terry,
Shaw,
it's a pleasure every time.
Thank you,
learn
sir.
something and enjoy every minute of it.
No worries, sir. I appreciate you.
Good time.
Yep.